Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Archeryshack Shop Talk podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm TJ.
We're back again to talk about all sorts of cool stuff. Thank y'all for tuning in for week 17. I can't believe we've been doing this for 17 weeks. But people keep listening, so we keep doing it. Thank y'all very much. We just had a slew of prime bows walk in on a Saturday. So that's good. We got about 5 more of them in. So we're getting them in slowly.
Yep.
I was getting worried there. People kept wanting them. Now we finally getting them. So getting them in. Got a good many bear bows in. We got bear crossbows and another bow or two coming first of next week. Actually, about the time this podcast comes out. And then we're not far from Christmas.
No.
It'll be a week from everybody listening to this. So the Christmas bows are selling. Had a good bit of foot traffic, more than I expected through the shop today. We're recording this on Saturday, and it's kind of it's the Christmas buying season, but it's as far as like bow hunters, they're kind of done or almost done, not worried about much. But shoot, we sold some bows this week and still having bows dropped off to be restrung and tuned and all that. So that's a good thing.
It's just it's a weird time of year because, normally right now we're considered we're on the very, very back end of almost of our dead season, or what we call dead season. But we're also at Christmas time, so you still get a lot of traffic with Christmas shopping and buying presents and everything. But
it's a crazy, archer seasons are crazy. At least here it is. I know everybody's hunting season's different, but it's like balls to the wall from mid-July all the way to about third week of October. And then our gun season opens up, so it goes from wild to only a tad bit wild. And then by the end of October, it kind of dies off. And then it's kind of like November's kind of a flop. December's Christmas stuff. We'll have those people coming in after Christmas to get stuff set up that they got. And then January starts the tournament stuff. And then we get traffic from tournament people, but it's nothing like the bow hunting crowd. And then once late spring hits where it's really getting hot and the kids are getting out of school, it's like a really big dead season from end of May through July, really, after the 4th when it picks back up. But it's just kind of
really
big lull. Everybody's going on vacation and all that stuff.
Really around our turkey season is when it kind of decides to, okay, you don't have any kind of foot traffic except for maybe
it's like the
errors or something.
I guess vacations are happening and it's getting a little hot to shoot 3D. That's what kind of blows my mind. And I understand, but when it starts getting on the warmer side, people just quit shooting 3D around here. It's like, I guess it's like up north, when it's 0 degrees and you can't shoot 3D first of the year. Around here, it's like game on from first of the year through about April, and then it just kind of shuts off. But our hunting season's only got about 2.5 weeks left. Seemed like all the deer have went back to moving at night, or at least on my cameras.
Mine too.
Hadn't heard of much being shot lately, so that's kind of it was a couple weeks, I guess, of straight up rut. Seen some big deer shot, talked to a lot of people seeing deer, and then just everybody I'm talking to is having the same problem I'm having. Big deer, almost any deer is coming out in the middle of the night. So we'll see if that changes in the next week or two, but I doubt it.
I doubt it too. It's just, on mine, I've got, I think, 3 does that they can come through anytime they want to, and there's just no rhyme or reason. But all the bucks I had on camera, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So it's, unless you get I know a lot of people I've talked to is, they're like, well, we still got that second rut going to kick in. And I kind of, back when I first heard about this, I'm like, I ain't never heard of this. What's going on? And, started hunting more and realizing you still got a few of the younger does that might not have come in season during the rut, and they may come in later on, and about this time of year towards the end of deer season. So you might find one slip up chasing a doe, but I don't think it's going to happen though.
Yeah, I don't see much happening either. I think it's going, according to the kind of the monthly, what they think is going to happen, it's going to stay about this temperature, which for us is getting cold. You know, it's roughly in the 50s during the day, and then it's dropping. It's still above freezing at night and everything. It's just kind of been like that for a while. And then you have a one-off day where it gets a little colder, a little hotter, but it's that's just kind of what's going on. And hopefully y'all's deer season has been successful. I know it's just I can't keep up. I need to get like a map. I'm sure there's a website that says like what each state has going on for deer season, because I know a lot of different states, especially up north, do a lot of different stuff. And then like Canada, I have no idea what happens in Canada. I know we got people that listen from Canada because we've seen them. And anyway, that's that.
I think our boy Shane Cole,
he shot a good one, didn't he?
I think he shot a pretty good one, but I think he posted today on Facebook, or it might have been yesterday, but said that was the last day of their 2019 deer season. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm not familiar. He's out of Vermont, which you can go check out that podcast where we had him on.
Yeah. We need to try another one of them. If y'all didn't listen to that podcast, it's been a couple weeks back, but we Skyped him in. I put him on the screen, but the problem with doing that is the audio sucks because ultimately his audio comes through the computer, you know, so it's neat, but it seems like every time we do one with a good audio, we get a lot more views and listens and all that stuff. So we got a couple other people in mind we could have on here from that are not here. It's just I hate that the audio is not good, which it would be good for us. It'd be like them being on a phone pretty much.
Yes. Oh, man. Well, we didn't have too many crazy things happen in the shop this week until today.
Yeah. I'm sure you're listening, Brian Donahue, but we got a little bit of a chuckle out of your message to me. Brian has a PSE Evolve, and I think he let his buddy wanted to fill it on 90% let off, so he snatched her back, and he let her fire, and that's called dry firing. He sent me a picture of the shrapnel, and he was like, I said, I bet it let out quite a sound or whatever. And he's like, yeah, it was a pretty big thump. And then what else?
It's not funny, but I mean.
No, it happens.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I was going to bring it up because I can't. He said, that's the first dry fire I've witnessed, and I did not enjoy it. Anyway, we're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
Yeah.
So that sucks.
So, but yeah, nothing crazy this week. I mean, which I think this year has been one of our, how would you say it?
It's been a pretty straightforward year.
Yeah, we haven't had any kind of crazies. We've had some doozies though, but it's nothing like we've had in years past where
some of yours is crazy.
Yeah. But I see Vapor Trail come out with a new air wrist, the Gen 7X.
You showed me a picture of it, but I hadn't really researched it yet.
I hadn't either. I just seen it and done a little. I just kind of caught little glimpses of it. But if I remember from my reading on it, I think you can run it from either the up or down position on the limb. It's a limb-driven rest. I'm going to try to look it up real quick.
Vapor Trail's always had some nice stuff, you know, and when they're pretty much, when you say, you know, a limb-driven rest, the first thing a lot of people think of, but you can't go wrong with a Vapor Trail, and it's simple, very little trouble. It's pretty legitimate. I see that the Midwest Open is going on this weekend. I'll be curious to see who wins it. It's sort of the first, for those of you that don't keep up with much tournament stuff, the Midwest Open is sort of the first indoor shoot of the year, even though we hadn't flipped into the new year. It's sort of the first big shoot going on, you know. It's sort of the end of hunting season, so a lot of the pros go. I've seen a few people, you know, posting stuff, so But it's way up north, so it's a little far for us to try to go to. But cool stuff.
Let's see. I think they went on that one. They went to bow specific mounts.
I think they had some last year, I remember, but they will have to get some specifically for the primes in.
Mm-hmm. I think they redesigned the rest that comes up. I think, well, not redesigned it, but I think they did something with the coating that goes over it.
Gotcha.
And I know they redesigned on how the cord connects on the rest, where you could move it, run it on the top limb or the bottom limb. But I'll do some more digging on it this week, and we'll let y'all know on the next podcast some more about it. We appreciate y'all responses on the questions that we've been throwing out there and everything. So keep those responses coming. This week's should have thought of this one sooner, but what's your favorite trail cam, or what trail cams are y'all running in the deer woods to keep tabs on your deer?
That's a good one. That is a good one. And it seems there's so many good ones now, you know what I mean? And it's like just a few years ago, to get the ones that would send you the pictures cost, $300, $400, $500, and then you had to buy a $30 or $40 a month plan, and now you can get one for $100, $150, and then it's only a couple, $10 a month to get pictures sent to an app on your phone. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I haven't got into the cellular trail cams yet, but I think next year I'm gonna get me one and put out in the woods. And
I got one this year, and it's neat, but all night that thing, I had to turn the notifications off finally because it was all night, and of course I wanted to look and see what was coming out, so I finally just turned off the notifications so I could look at it whenever. But it definitely a game changer.
And then me and you was talking about this earlier today, but I don't know if anybody out there, but like we've seen an influx in people needing left-handed bows.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we, used to. You might have a call every once in a blue moon. Do you have a left-handed bow in stock?
Yeah.
And, of course, nobody really carried a left-handed bow, but now we're getting more calls, messages 2 and 3 times a week now, and customers coming in, y'all got any left-handed bows? And so, people listening out there, I mean, how many of y'all are left-handed? I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
It's
always been one of them things, like, if we got a left-handed bow, people will almost buy whatever just to get, because if they're left-handed, they aren't going to find, especially if you look like at a box store, they ain't going to have nothing left-handed most of the time. Not many people. At Bucks and Bass, we always kept like 1 or 2, max of 2 left-handed bows, but we always sold them. But a couple of years ago in here, I ordered, I think, a left-handed PSE, and it kind of, I figured it would go, but it set, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I should do this again. But then we got a left-handed prime in last year, and it got snatched up. Now we've had 2 or 3 more people come in looking for left-handed prime bows, so it's like, maybe we should order one. But it's so unique or whatever. It's scary because it's like, I don't know what color to get or weight. I mean, I can guess and, make a educated guess, but you hate to order something and it sit here for a year, but also you hate to not have it when somebody's looking for it. So
to all our left-handed shooters out there, send us a message or a response and let us know what your color choice, camo choice.
Yeah, I'd just be curious to know, in a short summary, how hard is it for you to find a bow? Do you usually have to special order it, or how does all that work?
Which leads us into our first question that we had texted in to us from the 854. What's the average wait time on a new bow?
That's a pretty good question. It's according to the time of the year. We'll start with right now. You get October, November time frame usually is a little longer because the new bows just came out. and it could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. You know what I mean? I'll tell you that, you know, the prime bows we just got in have been ordered for just a hair over a month. But then on the flip side, we made our 2020 bear order, and they were here in about 10 days. You know, they were on it. But once the bows start getting produced more, so let's get past the first of the year on into the spring and summer. You know, the bows have been out for a while. Then you can about guarantee about a 1 to 2 week wait time, maybe 3 if it's a weird color they may not have, unless they're out of something. And we've encountered that with different manufacturers where it's like we call them and say, you know, we need a black riser with camo limbs or whatever, and they say, well, we're waiting on black risers at the factory. It might be an extra week or 2, and then it turns into a month. But I'd say a month on average is a good figure to throw out.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, right now, you know, that initial surge, because most of our reps are coming by, you know, November, December time frame, and we're putting in our orders. So, and then, you know,
I'll be honest, Bear and PSE both kind of surprised me because Bear's always been pretty speedy. You know, PSE, we've had some fairly long waits with them before, but that even when I ordered that last PSE, they were like, and it was a left-handed bow. Speaking of left-handed bows, but they were like, you know, it's going to be like a month before we've even got that down to be produced, and it showed up 3 weeks. You know, it showed up before they're even supposed to manufacture them, so they must have got ahead of schedule. And I was like, heck yeah. And the Bears, I mean, I already expected it to take a month plus, and they showed up in about 10 days. So I guess it's according to how specialized of a bow you order. You know, fancy colors. I know I've seen online. We're not a Matthews dealer at this time, but I've seen online the ghost. What are they calling that green colored Matthews?
Vanish green, I think.
Something maybe like that. That people were saying, you know, there's like a 6 week wait on that. I knew that was going to be a popular bow.
Or is it ambush green?
Ambush, that's it. So new colors and even prime, you know, they come out with a couple of new colors. For me, they come out with an orange, and I wanted a 39 in orange, and I know it's probably going to be first of the year before it shows up, which is fine, but different colors are going to take longer.
Let's see. Our next one is a YouTube comment, so we appreciate the comment on YouTube.
Speaking of that real quick, it seems like every week we keep getting people in that say we've either listened to the podcast, we didn't know y'all were here, and we found you on YouTube. We had them people drive from all over the place, Charlotte and Asheville and Georgia and all this stuff, found us on YouTube, so we appreciate y'all. And that was why I started ramping up the YouTube last year, was like, hey, let's do this hardcore for about 6 months to a year, and if it pays off, let's keep rolling. If not, we tried, and it has definitely brought some extra people in the shop, a lot of extra calls. And I'll say it at the end again, I'm sure, but you know, if you need anything and you're not local, there's certain bows we can and can't ship and all that, but our number's 864-735-8484, or you can shoot me an email at archeryshack@gmail.com. You know, accessories, bowstrings, a lot of the bear line we can ship. You know, there's a PSE, a lot of the PSEs, there's a lot of stuff we can get to you, and we have seen a huge influx of people saying, I need XYZ, and we can say, yep, we can get it to you. A lot of bow tunes.
Oh, yeah. But our YouTube comment is, how do I fix cam lean?
That's a good one. So cam lean is different on every bow. So like, let's start with a single cam bow, or what they call a hybrid cam bow that has the yoke, you know, up top. You can take that top cam or idler wheel and twist one side or the other of the yoke and make that thing lean one way or another. So like when I set up a bow, I put the laser on it at full draw. That's the key, at full draw. And I make sure that on both sides of it, it is dead straight, and I twist it half twist at a time, get it perfect, all this stuff. On a binary cam bow that has no yokes, it just has 2 straight cables, you don't have that option. So what you got to do then is start moving shims around. And I can't tell you how much a 10,000 shim will make a major adjustment from moving it one side to the other, but occasionally we have bows, and at full draw you can see that cam all cattywampus, put on the draw board and all that, and you move a shim over, and that's kind of the two ways you fix it. If you got a yoke, you start twisting one side or the other of the yoke. If you don't have a yoke, then you start moving a shim, but by no means do you move a bunch of shims or anything. You move like a 10,000ths at a time to correct it. And then I like, no matter what kind of bow it is, my cams to be as close as possible to dead in line, straight at full draw. And that lets me know that when whoever hits that release, those cams are looking at each other perfect. They're not leaning any which way. Now, I will say I've had some bows that won't tune that way on a binary cam, and they want a little bit of lean. So, but when I say a little bit, I mean just the slightest amount. I had a guy the other weekend here, and he pulled a bow back he brought in, and like it was leaning so bad, and I was standing behind him just looking, that I was like, this bow's gonna blow up. You know what I mean? Like, that's too much. And it seems like, without calling out a manufacturer, because we don't fool with them, but there's a manufacturer or two that has some cams, and I know there's a lot of trouble from the factory of them things leaning. And what causes that, because I used to think, back in the day, I was like, well, if they're putting the shims in the same and building the bow the same, why is it leaning? But each limb has a different deflection number. So I think, does anybody have a solid limb anymore? Not that I can think of.
I don't think anybody has, but I don't hold me to it.
Well, so pretty much everybody's a split limb bow. So you got 4 limbs, and then you're not going to have 4 identical limbs. I don't care what you do. I mean, they may be super, super, super close, and most are, but you're going to have, a little bit more or less deflection in one of the limbs or whatever. So each bow they set up is going to have a little bit of a different quirk to it. So they may send one out that's perfect, and the next one may be leaning some, and that's kind of the story behind it. But that's how you fix it. You move shims or you twist yokes. That's pretty much it. And then worst case scenario, if it's way out of whack, you take it apart. Well, we take it apart, or if you got a bow press, you can, and you change the limb. You swap the limbs around to get it to act right. But that's sort of like worst case scenario. We've only had to do it a few times, and hopefully you don't have to do that.
And you can also, on most of the new bows today, have a adjustable cable cable slide or roller guard,
and that's what causes cam lean, or for the most part. So you got to get your cables out of the way of the arrow, you know what I mean, to get your center shot. So those cables are being pulled over there by that roller or cable slide or whatever, which is wanting to twist them limbs in. So TJ, you go ahead with what you were saying, but I want to throw that out there.
So, like I know the primes, who else has got the adjustable cable slide or roller guard now?
I know Bowtech does. A bunch of people do now.
So, you can actually adjust in or out your cable guard, which will also, you can take a few turns out of that bolt, and it'll let those cables come back in towards the center, come back in towards the riser. So, before you go swapping shims, try to play with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Only thing you got to do is be careful, is check your air vein clearance on your cables. Mm-hmm. We've seen, I think 90% of people shoot odd fletching up or odd fletching down. Just make sure you got enough clearance on those cables. If not, you might have to twist your air and shoot odd fletching out. Mm-hmm. But, that's something you could try if you have that adjustable roller guard or flex guard or, something like that. Just kind of, I think 5 turns. Each bow manufacturer is different on how many turns you can take out of it. But that's a simple, that's where I would start before, unless I had some major cam lean.
Yeah, I agree. And even on some of my bows, I'll go ahead and let it out a turn or two. I don't want it like on the fletching or super close to it, but it just takes stress off the limb by moving it in. But I've also, you've seen it, a bow will come in, we'll mess with that flex guard or whatever, and it'll go from a kick to a bullet hole just by doing that with nothing else. So, good point.
Our next question comes from Dan, who sent us an email in here. How do speed knocks work?
Speed knocks. So speed knocks are little brass knocks. They were invented to be a knocking point on the string. So before like string loops and stuff, people would crimp those brass knocks on the string. The arrow knock would go under it, and then the release would go under the arrow knock, or sometimes an eliminator button and then the release. But I really don't know who figured out that if you, and it sounds backwards because typically if you put any weight on the string, it slows it down. But somebody figured out if you strategically put weight at the very ends of the string near the cam, it actually allows the string to seat in the cam quicker, which in turn makes the string go faster. So that's kind of how they work. There's several different kinds. There's the brass knocks. There's different rubber ones they make now, Pine Ridge, and everybody that slides over it. I like the rubber ones because I feel like they take out vibration and oscillation better, but they also don't weigh as much as the brass, so you typically don't get as many feet per second. And, we make a lot of bowstrings. Some of these Matthews and Hoyts and all that, I mean, they got as many as like 30 speed knocks total on the string, whereas some of the older bows just have like 2 or 3 on each end. But I've talked to people about this before, and it's really a pain in the butt. But if you got a chronograph and access to some knock crimpers and all that, you can actually, it'll affect the tune of the bow. I mean, I've had a Hoyt bow that would not tune. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. A buddy of mine that I talked to, he has a shop out west. He said he was having the same problem. He said, take all the speed knocks off the top of the string and see what happens. And I did it, and the dang thing bullet holed. And I was like, how did that work? But anyway, what I was getting at, if you got crimpers and all that, you can move those things around, recrimp them, add them, take them away, and find out exactly with your setup, what the maximum speed is. Because I think at the factory, they're just kind of taking a general, at all draw lengths, this is what works. And I know other people's told me they have moved them all around and got more speed, and it's never what the factory has. But, that's pretty much it. That's the cool thing about the rubber ones is you can actually just slide them around and chronograph it, and find out where the fastest spot is. But the brass knocks are definitely a lot heavier and add a lot more speed than the rubber or plastic or whatever ones are. So the ultimate answer to that question is it just seats the string quicker with where those weights are at. The moment you hit the release, the string lays down in that track better and quicker than it does without it. And there's a few bows, mainly the new Hoyt bows. Most bows you don't have to put, even if it came from factory with speed knocks, you don't have to put them back on there. But I know the new Hoyt bows, starting with like the RX1, they pretty much told me in person that you really want to make sure you always put these speed knocks in these locations on there, because it can actually cause the bow to derail. And they're one of the companies that has, they got like golly, there's probably 12 on each end or something. Yeah,
I think the most we done was 18 on one. I think
there's a bunch. It's a lot of weight on each end of the string. So they said, be careful if you don't put them on there. But a lot of the older bows, it really don't matter. And I've had bows that were only a 1 or 2 feet per second difference, and I've had other bows that were almost 10 feet per second difference with or without them. So that's something I usually just go off the factory sheet and crimp them back on where they were at. But I hadn't played with moving them around in a while. I used to do all that stuff, but like I say, it can affect the tune of the bow, and there's a ton of other stuff. But it just speeds up that string.
Yeah, it's crazy because you never really seen speed knocks at all.
Yeah.
And then now
I need that's a research, or if anybody on here knows. The first ones I really started seeing was Matthews. They just put 2 at the bottom of their solo cam back in the late 90s. That's the first ones I remember seeing, but I could be wrong. Somebody at PSE or somebody could have been doing it before then.
Next question we got comes from Texter from the 210. Cost to get into traditional archery.
Seems like we've had a lot of questions about this lately. Most popular across the board beginner bow is the Samick Sage, and there's a bunch of companies. I think what really happens is that thing's made in China or wherever, and they make that same model for a bunch of different companies and just change the color a little bit and rebrand it. But the easy answer is about $150 if you don't buy used. You can get something like a Sage or something similar, get you about 6 arrows with feathers and a finger tab or glove, and you're ready to roll. So around that $150 mark. Now, I ain't saying you can find some used ones and probably get for under $100. Another thing to talk about would be what weight to get.
Yeah.
So you're not holding it back for long, but you do want to pull it to full draw and hit your anchor point, which generally is for a lot of people. They put that pointer finger in their mouth, and when they hit that, it's like they aim for a second and a half and let it go. I know for me, I've got a 50-pound recurve. It's too much. I'm more of a 40-pound man, and if I was going to shoot target with a recurve, I'd probably be more of a 35, 32-pound man, because I like to be able to come back, hold it for just long enough, and I'm more of a instinctive shooter. I'm just looking at what I want to hit, kind of like throwing a baseball, and that's how I'm doing it. There's a lot of people that aim off the tip of their arrow or have all these different tricks they use. I don't get into that, but either way, to me it's good to be able to hold it back for 2 seconds maybe. You know what I mean? You back, 1, 2, go, and you don't want to be holding it back shaking like crazy. So you figure on a compound bow, you're only holding 10 pounds, maybe 15. If you're a tournament shooter with a low let off, maybe a little bit more than that. But with that recurve, you're holding the full 45 pounds or whatever, and it's stout. So the most common weight probably is 45 pounds. And, you got people like I'm sure y'all have seen him shoot pills and stuff. I remember back in the day he was on TV and stuff, old Byron Ferguson. Mm-hmm. He actually shoots a 70-pound longbow. And I'll talk about that real quick too. A recurve generally is faster than a longbow, just because of the recurve limbs and all that stuff. To me, a longbow has a little more kick to it, but maybe we need to get one of our traditional bow. We need to get Gary Dunn on here, because he is a heck of a traditional shooter. But anyway, to get a decent entry-level recurve and 6 arrows with feathers and a tab or a glove, about $150.
It's a lot of fun. It gets addictive.
And to me, like if we had a group of 4 or 5 people, it's fun to just take one recurve out there with about a dozen arrows and start, you shoot 2 and you shoot 2, and whoever gets closest, we'll bet $1 a piece or whatever, and that type of thing. And I can go out there, and practice for 20, 30 minutes, and at 20 yards, hit about the size of a softball, but what messes with me, and I don't shoot it enough, or really want to shoot it enough, the recurve, but when you start backing up, because even 2 yards or maybe 3 yards is a huge drop for a recurve going that slow. They're traveling at 170, 180, somewhere in there generally, and drops a lot. In max yardage, like in these tournaments, it seems like about 30 is very, very max. Most of them are 20, 25-yard shots. And if I was going to hunt with it, 25 would definitely be max.
Yeah. Our next question comes in from the 710 texter. What's the most common draw length and poundage?
You never can go wrong with the 2970.
Yeah.
That's probably, poundage, I don't know.
I think this year, the most popular draw length and poundage that we've had in the shop has been around 28 and a half. I mean, we've had the occasional 30 or 31 inch draw, but everything's been between 28 and 29. So that's probably your...
Yeah. The 28 and a half is a safe play for a shop if it's draw specific, because, technically with a loop you're at 29. You can fudge it a little bit back and forth, and then like a 70-pound bow is at least going to go down to 60. Most of the time, more like 55. But I'd say most of the hunters that come in here, like let's say 28 and a half and about 64, 65 pounds is what we see a lot of.
Yeah, that 64, 65, like I said, 28 and a half, 65 was our big popular draw length and poundage this year. So,
Yeah, and a lot of companies, Prime included, now offers a 65-pound max. And to me, it's sort of a rule of thumb. Most bows, 90% of bows, you get it, let's say a 70-pound bow, and it'll max at about 72. It's got a little bit extra oomph. Or if it don't, you can always put a twist or two in the cable and just give it that extra pound or two.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like on a tournament bow, I generally shoot a 60 pounder, but maxed out it's on 61, 62 or something like that. But for hunting, I'm usually like a 65 pounder man.
Yeah, I like 65, and now with 90% let off and 85 and 90% let off in play, you're holding nothing back on that 65 pounds. I mean,
that's true.
So let's see. Got another question from the 723 texter. How does the silverback release work?
So the silverback is a Carter. It's a Knock On produces it, John Dudley, but Carter makes it for him. And that's if you don't listen to John Dudley's podcast, he has a ton of information. It's something to check out. Knock On podcast, very good wealth of information there. And John was a pro shooter, and he's worked for different bow companies, and now he sort of does coaching type stuff and has his own line of stuff called Knock On. But he came out with 2 releases. But what did he ask about the silverback?
Silverback,
the silverback is a release, and it's sort of like a resistance release. So what happens is you actually push in the trigger, come to full draw, let the trigger go, and you set it to where you start pulling into the release. And let's say, I'm just going to use a good round number here. Let's say you're shooting 50-pound bow with 90% let off, and you're holding 5 pounds back. So you'd set that release to go off at, say, 7 pounds. So you push the release in so it won't turn loose. You pull it back, let the trigger go, and then what actually shoots it is when it hits that 7-pound mark. So you draw back, do all that, and then you let go of that trigger, and the trigger's not what's going to shoot it. You start pulling, and as soon as it hits 7 pounds, boom, it releases. And I like those releases. It just takes some mental adjusting because you're used to hitting the trigger and it's shooting. Whereas this one, you're holding the trigger in and getting it back and then letting it go, and then the resistance pulls it or shoots it. And then if you were to want to let down, you push that trigger back in with your thumb and let it down. That's pretty much how it works. There's the first one I ever tinkered with was a Carter Evolution, and I like it. I really do. I'm surprised there's not more of them because I've shot back tension releases and I still pretty much know when it's going to shoot. You know what I mean? I can still anticipate it. But with the resistance release, you ain't going, there's no trigger to pull. There's no twist motion that's going to set it off. There's nothing except for whatever poundage you got it set on for it to shoot. So I think it's I know those, he came out with those, about 2 years ago, and they kept back ordering, and they were making bukus of them. So I think they still are. So it's a good one.
And then here's a big one, and this one could take a whole podcast in itself. Arrow selection and cost.
Man.
I don't know if he's asking like what we have in the shop or
who knows. Who knows? I'll just do a quick roundabout number of entry-level carbon arrow for hunting or backyard shooting. You're looking at $40, $45 for 6 in about any brand. And they're generally about a 6,000th arrow. Starting price for a tournament archer for a fat arrow, you're probably looking at $140, $150 a dozen. So more like
with components on that,
you're looking at $80 or $90 bottom dollar for 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a big sized arrow, and then it just goes up from there. You got field arrows, you got X10 arrows that are as much as $400 or $500 a dozen for field type archery. For hunting stuff, you've got 1,000ths micro diameter stuff that runs up in the $200 range plus. So that's pretty much the quick answer to it. Your average arrow, an average size arrow that's decent, I'd say you're going to pay about $60, $70 for 6. But there's also some economy stuff. I hate to even call it economy because it's still good stuff. This, $45-ish for 6. That's pretty much it.
So, I mean, for a dozen arrows of, a good quality hunting arrow, I mean, you're going to be 100 to 120 bucks a dozen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an all around figure. I mean, you can get into some of the micro diameter stuff, and I mean, you about 150, 175 there, but most of the time you're right around that 1 to 120.
Yeah.
On just your average hunting arrow. And when I say average, I mean average is an understatement on some of these arrows. I mean, they're tough.
And I mean, it used to, you'd spin some of the cheaper arrows and you could see a little wobble in them, but even the cheaper ones now are straight. You can take a 6,000th arrow and run it through a spine checker, and it's still, most of them, out of a dozen, you might have two that's 6 plus or minus 6. The rest of them are plus or minus 2 or 3. So, yeah.
And then we kind of touched on this one, but silencing a bow and string.
That's a pretty good one. Used to, it was cat whiskers and beaver balls. And beaver balls is like a furry ball of a thing you wrap through the string, and they actually work great. I'm out of them now, but I usually keep them in here. Cat whiskers are those rubber balls or spider legs or whatever you want to call them. You tie on the string, and they work great. But you just don't see them much anymore. Either. Well, for one, bows now have string stops, pretty much all of them. And that takes out a lot of what those things used to take out. In general, those things do slow the bow down 4 or 5 feet per second, which people don't like. But other than string noise, well, you can go back to the rubber, like the Nitro XL button Pine Ridge makes. It speeds the bow up and does take out a little bit of oscillation type noise. But if you get into like the riser vibration and that type of thing, you got limb savers, which is sort of the standard of rubber stuff, bow jacks, hush pucks.
I was going to say hush pucks, one I was thinking of. Those are some pretty cool products that they've got.
Yeah. I've put them on my bow and been happy. It takes out like some of the riser vibration, but
and they even make them now to where you can put them. Like, I have a Excel AccuTouch Hunter Carbon Pro, I think is the full name of it, but I've actually got the knob. It's a dovetail, so I got my lockdown nut, and they make a hush puck that I could actually put on top of it.
Yeah.
And it'll help take,
and then the heavier the arrow you shoot, the quieter the bow's going to be, but of course the slower it's going to be. So you got like a trade-off there. You shoot like 5 grains per pound, it's going to be kind of loud. You shoot 8 or 9 grains per pound, and it's going to quieten it down a good bit. But between by the time you get a sight and a rest and a stabilizer and all this stuff, that little teeny bits of vibration is going to dissolve into, for most bows now, it kind of takes it out. But, good old limb savers always help. And
I remember when the string leech come out.
There's some back here.
And then now it's what, monkey tails, I think it is.
Monkey tails Matthews makes, they're big. The leeches work well, but I remember they always fell apart.
Yeah.
But it was worth having them because it would take out every bit of that string twang. But I think they call them the Everlast string leech or something like that. I guess they made them tougher, but it's crazy what the littlest bit of stuff, rubber on the string or the riser, will take out,
It's like the barbed wire stuff we got,
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that, because all it is what we call it looks like barbed wire, but it's a rubber dampening.
It's like a rubber string that's about 6 inches long, and you can interlink them and wrap them through your riser, your stabilizer. It was popular about 3-4 years ago, and I remember seeing it and thinking, this is the stupidest looking thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I seen them at a show, and we actually got the demo that they had, but they had a riser, just a plain old metal riser, and then they had a riser with a couple of those wrapped around it, and they said, here, throw this one in the floor. It made all kind of racket. Then I threw the one in the floor with that little bit of rubber on it, and it was like just a millisecond of sound, and it quit. I was like, okay, I'll order some. And we sold a lot of it about 2016, maybe 2017, and then it kind of fizzled out. But anything rubber you put on string or bow or stabilizer or whatever is going to take out noise and vibration. But
that's all I got for questions and everything. But I hope we covered all your questions. Hope we answered them.
Yeah, keep a lot of people comment on YouTube. You can tell us something you want to talk about. Some people text us. That number to text in is 843-560-9898. Some people email us, archeryshack@gmail.com. Just all sorts of stuff. So Facebook, if you're on Facebook, look us up. But we'll be happy to talk about whatever. And the questions kind of keep us going, I guess. I mean, we could talk about whatever, but we're boring anyway, but at least these give us stuff people want to hear about. So,
and it also, we'll get these questions in, and during the week, it kind of keeps our brains turning.
Yeah.
It picks our brains and everything. So, it's like if you call the shop and you talk to me or Jeremy or, if we don't have an answer, well, guess what? We're going to find the answer for you.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just, just keep sending your questions in. It's, like I said, it picks our brains and, it keeps us on our toes. We got ATA coming up here within
a month. Yeah.
A month. So
I can't wait. It'll be fun. We got to figure out. We've been talking some, but we'll post, exactly what we're going to do before. But we'll probably be doing either a live podcast or we'll record it and then immediately dump it online or whatever to talk about what we've seen at the ATA. And it's also one of them things I want to take pictures and I want to get on here and talk, but I also don't want to take up a lot of time doing it because we're trying to look at, we're trying to actually be there and do what we're there to do, which is look at new stuff and get stuff ordered and all that. But
so what we're telling them is be on the lookout for the unedited version.
Yeah, that could be bad. That could be bad.
Or what was it a few years back? It was real big, the unrated version on DVDs and stuff like that. So,
but yeah, we'll do something. Most likely, probably do something from the hotel room or whatever and just chat for about an hour and maybe we can do it live. I don't think we're going to hit it, but if we could hit that 1,000 YouTube subscriber thing, I could go live from the phone and just plug the mics into it and we could roll with that. But we're at a little over 750, I think. I doubt we're going to be at 1,000 by a month from now, but either way, we'll make it happen. We'll probably just record it on one camera and then I can just dump it straight on YouTube and everybody can watch it. Might do it that first night or something. But it'll be cool either way.
Oh, yeah.
We'll come up with something and then I usually post pictures on the Facebook page or something during the day of neat, the neatest stuff we've seen, and sometimes we make a video.
Also, throw us some ideas. I mean, like I said, we got about a month. But if you see anything cool or you hear anything that we haven't heard or whatnot before then, and, send it to us. That way we can check it out. Because I know we probably said on the podcast before, and we'll say it again before, but, there's some stuff that we just miss, and how we miss it, we hadn't figured it out.
It's easier now with Facebook and stuff, but at the show, I've walked right past booths that had some fabulous new product and somehow didn't see it or didn't hear about it, and we'll be at the show that night, in the hotel room, and I'll be looking on Facebook or whatever and be like, holy crap, I remember passing that booth, but I didn't realize they had this, so I'll go back the next day real quick.
So just keep looking and everything, and like I said,
I wish we could, it'd be a pain in the butt. I wish we could mount a GoPro on my head and just keep it live the whole day, but and there'll be a lot of media type companies there, throwing out video of the new stuff too, because we want to tell you all about the new stuff, but we're not there just to kind of do that. I always try to see the stuff, that way if people come in and say, hey, have you seen XYZ bow? We can say, yeah, we've shot it, we've worked on it, have you seen the new Garmin sight? Yeah, we've played with them. We can give you our opinion, because we've put our hands on it. And then as an archery shop, of course, they offer the best pricing on anything if you order it there. So that's really the main reason to go. And
then that way, in terms, the better pricing we get,
Oh yeah.
we can pass the savings on to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we usually spend like the whole second morning, 3 or 4 hours. They have like probably hundreds of bow lanes, and every manufacturer's got 5 or 10 lanes. We shoot every bow out there. That way, if you come in next March and say, hey, have you heard about the XYZ bow? We can say, yeah, we've actually shot it and we've done this and here's what we thought and it was a great bow or whatever. So that's always cool. To me, it just gets me pepped up for the year. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of the lull time of the year, and it's just kind of like whatever. And then you get to go see all this new stuff and feel some excitement from archery companies and from other shops and get ideas from each other. And that's the other thing. We go to seminars and talk to other shops. What's working for you? All this stuff, and it kind of gets me pepped up and ready to roll for the year. But anyway, thank you for listening. I think we've been on here about 45, 50 minutes. Subscribe to our channel if you're watching on YouTube. We'd greatly appreciate it. Got some prime and bear bow reviews coming out in the next few weeks. I usually release those on Sunday morning, so keep an eye out for those, and we'll see you next week.
y'all take care.
See y'all.